Now that we've gone through how to tune risks, we've looked at how to create exclusions for risks, and we've looked at the risk scans themselves, we're going to move on and take a look at content policies. And content policies are going to be the policies that are going to be directly involving risks. They're going to be the way you can get notifications on risks if needed there. It's also the way you can go ahead and have the platform take automatic remediation as well too on things if needed there. Two ways to access content policies. The first way is going to be by clicking the 16 enabled policies here, or however many policies you have turned on currently. You just click that number. It's going to go ahead and take you right into the policy section. The second way is to come into the platform itself, or if you're already in the platform itself, and then come over to the policy violations section here. From there, you're going to want to click on the view/edit policies button there, and that'll take you right into those content policies. From there, first thing to note here is this notify admin on policy violation. This needs to be checked to receive notifications on policies, so make sure you leave that checked. If you uncheck that, you're not going to receive any notifications when a policy is violated, regardless if you've turned on other fields down below here. So make sure that's turned on. The emails here are the ones that you want to have receive notifications when policies are violated by default. So this is the default users that are going to receive those notifications. In this case, you want to make sure those are admins. They're going to receive those notifications and updates on here's what the platform's seen that's been violated so far there. So you can add multiple people here, comma separated. It'll support mail lists. As long as it's a valid email address, you can go ahead and input that in here. You can also change the subject line if you'd like. That's the default one there, but you can certainly play around with that too if needed there. By default, notifications on policy violations are going to go out to you every 4 hours. So do keep that in mind. Every 4 hours, you'll get an update of all the violations that have occurred within that time period. There are ways to speed up that notification process, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. As I mentioned, policies will a lot of times directly involve risk, especially on the content side, because content policies are looking for things within Drive, email, shared Drive, so they'll more directly involve the risk scans. So you can see here we've got a couple different example policies. These will be very similar to what you should be seeing in your own environment here. There might be some differences in the ordering of those policies, but it should look pretty similar here. We'll use Social Security or credit cards leaving the organization as the example policy here. So very first thing to note here is you have the ability to go ahead and delegate out policies on a per policy basis to additional admins who might be assisting with this or focusing their attention on certain things. So for this, you could go ahead and change the field here and add in different users here. It'll just be a comma separated list. You could just add an additional person here if they're just going to be someone who also needs notifications, but just on that specific policy when it's violated. So certainly you can play around with that quite a bit, especially for the policies that might involve inappropriate images or self-harm or things like that. A lot of times it might make sense to have a principal or a counselor involved in that process, and they may be the ones receiving those notification alerts directly there. With that as well too is if you are trying to have those notification alerts delegated out and you want to make sure that your environment is split between your staff and students, that's something certainly you can discuss with the support or customer success team. It is a feature that we do offer there. So if you've got some questions on that or how that works, certainly reach out to us and we can discuss that with you further there. So once you've made your decision on that and you've got the policies delegated out to the correct people there, from there you also then have the ability to set remediation. By default, the platform is in an alert-only state, so it's only going to send you notification emails. It's not going to take any kind of automated action, anything like that. And if you create any new policies, that's the state it stays in. Policies are not designed to take automatic action unless you specifically go ahead and give the okay. We don't want the platform suddenly taking action against files unless you've decided that's what you want to have happen there. Remediation-wise, it's going to depend a little bit on the content type. So for Drive, there'll be the ability to have the platform automatically delete files, quarantine files, break share permissions, or warn user. This really depends on the policy. So for something like the Social Security number or credit card number leaving the org policy, a revoke share might make a lot of sense. This is going to go ahead and break the shares if someone is sharing a document to the outside that contains sensitive data. If this was a policy like self-harm or image risk, those ones may not make as much sense to have those kinds of remediation set in the first place, and you may want to just leave it in that state where it's just going to be notifying you about things and not take any kind of action. Warn user is going to send out an automated warning message to the end user as soon as the platform sees the violation. So that's certainly a great option as well too, to let end users know, hey, this isn't something you should be actually doing. You violated a policy. Here's what happened with that. For shared drives, you'll see that there's just two options to delete files or warn user. And then for email, you'll see delete and quarantine. Now, one really important note here is the platform, again, cannot stop outbound mail traffic. So delete and quarantine remediations are not going to do anything to outbound mail traffic. This is inbound mail traffic within domain email traffic. Absolutely, the platform is going to go ahead and take automatic action. But in the case of this policy here, it wouldn't do anything. So your best option would be warn user. And if you do ever click on warn user here with email, you'll see that you're presented with 3 options of who you want to warn. You can warn the sender of the email, you can warn the recipient of the email, or you can warn someone who's CC'd on the email. Now this is things leaving your domain here, so it's stuff going to the outside. So in this case, I recommend warning the sender here in this case. You'll also see too that now that I've set a warning message, I can also choose a custom message body if I want to. And this is something that can be done on a per policy basis as well too. So you can create those custom message bodies. Those will go out to end users as well. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can customize those, but this will customize the message body, but you can even customize the templates themselves there. You'll also see now too that there's an option for when you want the remediation to happen. So you can actually have delayed remediation. And this tends to make the most sense in situations where you actually have some kind of action that's going to take place. So such as a revoke share here, you could say, I want to hold off for 3 days or a week or 2 weeks before the platform takes that. Most of the time, you're going to want to leave remediation as immediately, unless there's a specific situation where that makes sense to have more delayed remediation. You'll notice also if you set a remediation type that breaks share permissions or takes some kind of other action, you can also let the user know after the fact that this action has occurred here. And then again, you can have those custom notifications go out to people as well too, and that's where you can go ahead and change that message body there. Very importantly too, there's the notify admin. You'll see this on every policy here. This is your way to receive alert notifications more rapidly. So instead of every 4 hours, this will send you alert notifications as soon as it sees a violation of the policy. And again, it's going to go to whoever's in this send email to field. So if you leave it blank, it's just going to default to that top field again here and send those email notifications as soon as it sees that policy violation. So great option if you want to go ahead and have it send you more rapid notifications there. Any of the policies in here can also be turned on or off as well too. So if there's policies that don't suit your needs, you can feel free to turn those off if they don't make sense. You can modify existing policies if you need to. You can outright delete policies or even copy policies. So these are all different options you have too when it comes to those different policies and getting those set up. Now, one thing I mentioned is you could customize the warning messages that go out to end users in those templates. 2 ways to access that section. First way is by clicking on this small gear wheel icon here. You'll see it says click to customize email template. That's certainly a great option here. Otherwise though, you can come back over to admin here. You can either click on admin or you can come down to customization. If again you click into admin here, you want to click on configure user email template. And that's going to send you to the general section. And this is where you're going to want to start off with. And make sure you go through this and change everything out. It's going to be very managed methods by default, so you're going to want to remove all that. So for the company logo, this is a specific image size. It's a max image size of 160 by 40. So keep that in mind. Again, it's a max image size of 160 by 40. By default, it'll be a managed method shield logo. You may want to go ahead and change that out. For your product name here, I recommend changing that to your district name or your organization name. For your admin email here, this is who they should contact if they've got questions about a violation email that they got, letting them know, hey, you violated this policy. If they've got questions, this is who they should email. A help desk can make a lot of sense there. If you have a support email address, that can also make a lot of sense as well too. So it goes into your ticketing system, or if you just want to put in your email address, that works great too. Admin phone is completely optional, but if you want to throw a phone number in there, you can do that as well too. For company name here at the bottom, I would again call this your district name. Putting your district name in here is much better than just having managed methods. Copyright information just has to have something in the field here. Again, you can throw in your district name. It just has to have some information within this copyright field here. Footer message here. This message tends to serve pretty well. The only thing I change is this email address right here. Of course, you can modify the footer message too if you feel the need to and say, hey, this isn't really exactly what I want to. I want to go ahead and make some changes that way. Certainly you can feel free to do that. Again, once you make any changes, you're going to want to press that save button here. That's going to confirm your changes and lock things in. Also, I recommend changing all the other fields here first before you change the company logo field. If you change this logo field first and you don't have the right image size on hand, it will not let you save any of your other changes. So change all these fields first, then change that logo field last there. Next will be then the content remediation section. This is where you're going to want to head to next. If you end up in the content remediation section first, just hop over to general. That's where you're going to want to go ahead and start looking at things. You'll see that there's 3 different templates here, and they're going to be a little bit different depending on what's going on. The action now is for if the platform is actually taking action. So for example, with the social security numbers or credit card numbers leaving the org policy, that'd be a situation where, okay, if I have the platform set to revoke share, this would be what someone might receive, is this action now to let them know that, hey, action has been performed on your actual file. The platform broke a share there. Action scheduled is for that delayed remediation if you decide to set that up, and then send warning is for the warning messages that are going out to end users. Now you do have the ability to customize each of these as well too, but do keep in mind that these are the general templates that go out for all email notifications with the warning messages. So you want to leave these fairly generic, but you can certainly feel free to change that. But again, just make sure you leave it fairly generic. If you click the preview template option here, you'll see the information here displayed as an email and how it would look to the end user here. Important note here too, the colors here can be changed. So if your blue is not the color of your district, the color of your organization, you can reach out to the support team. That's support@managedmethods.com, and they're happy to help you adjust that, but they need a hex code. So you have to have a specific hex code for that color that you want it changed to. And then once that's done, they'll go ahead and be happy to change the colors for you. But this will give you a really good idea of what this is going to look like to the end user there. So again, this is where you may want to make some adjustments and changes there. And then this is the message body that gets changed on a per policy basis with that pencil and paper icon that you saw earlier there when we were going through policies. Then once you've made any changes here, again, you're going to want to press the save button. If the color scheme here is not looking the same, you might be in the dark mode, so just make sure you toggle off the dark mode if it looks a little weird and you're not seeing the blue there on the preview template. And any of these templates are previewable as well too, so you don't have to pick specifically just one template to look at. You can look at them all. But again, recommend leaving this fairly generic, and then once you've done that, go ahead and press the save button. Heading back to the policy section, you'll want to come back up to audit and control here, and then probably the fastest way is to click the 16 enable policies button here, or however many number of policies you have turned on. If you want to click into view, you certainly can, and head over to the policy violations tab. And then last important thing here is if you need to create your own custom policy. This is again a process we're happy to help you with. So you'll see there's an add policy button there. You're going to want to go ahead and click on that. Very first thing is you're going to want to give this policy a name here. And this is really going to be good if you want to set up a policy for maybe a risk scan that you didn't have turned on initially, or there's some kind of directionality you want to capture via an existing risk scan or something like that. That's great for this as an option. So very first thing here, you're going to see the content section. Most policies will be for shared drive files, email, and drive files. The reason for that is they can all operate together. They're the main thing that the platform sees risk within. You can also set policies for file type and size. In this case, if you're setting a policy for any kind of risk scans, I'd recommend leaving these fields blank here. The threat section here, you're going to want to go ahead and click into risk here, since we're looking for a specific risk in this case. And then if you click into it itself here, you're going to see that there is a number of different options. All the risk scans you have currently turned on will be available, so you can click into those. Generally speaking, it's best to set one policy per risk. But if you have specific risks that work together, it might make sense. So for example, FERP and IEP will be bundled together a lot of the times. If you have other risk scans which make sense to be bundled together, you certainly can do that as well. I'll go ahead and click on this risk scan here just as an example. Next up will be the sharing section. So if this policy is going to be a directionality based policy or focused that way, this is where you'll want to go ahead and make sure you select that. So from organization is going to mean that the policy is going to be looking for things coming from your domain. With that, then you could also set the explicit user group sharing, and you could say, okay, I want to focus in on within domain, or I want to focus in on stuff going to the outside. You may have also noticed there's a number of shares here. This is the number of users that a file has been shared to, or a number of recipients on an email. There's also from outside domain. That's going to be looking at things coming in from the outside. Then there's also the to and from specific user. Those will have both an included or an exclude there. This is focusing on specific users traffic that way. So if there's a specific user you need to keep a closer eye on when it comes to a specific risk, that's certainly an option as well too. But do keep in mind the to and from fields are and fields here. So if you do set that, you may need to set a policy in both directions there if you're looking at things that way. The to specific and from specific OU fields, very similar here with the include and exclude. Again here too, if they're and fields, so if you're going to set it in both directions here, you're going to want to not set them both in the same policy here. You're going to want to create two separate policies for that, so you're capturing traffic in both directions. The to and from OU can also be very handy if you're running into a situation where maybe there's a handful of OUs that are sharing stuff to each other that you don't want, or things of that nature as well too. Once you've got everything set out how you'd like there, and in this case I'll go ahead and have this policy look for things that are being shared to the outside, you can click the apply button. Now your new policy will be here all the way at the bottom, so you can scroll down to that or click the little arrow icon here that'll take you to the bottom here. You'll see now that the policy has been created, the send email to field will fill in once the policy has been saved, or you can also fill it in right now too. Totally your preference there. You can then also come here and set in the remediation that you'd like. And once that's done, you'll just press the save button here. Very important, make sure you press the save button if you're making any changes to policies at all. That includes any of the pre-existing policies as well. Otherwise, your changes will not be confirmed there. So make sure you press the save button before you navigate off this page. Otherwise, your changes will not be confirmed there. And then once you've done that, you've created your own custom policy there, and you've gone through a complete risk audit. If you have any questions or need additional assistance with running a risk audit, certainly feel free to reach out to our customer success and support team. They're happy to assist you going through that information here. Thanks so much for your time today, and hope this Managed Methods guide was helpful.